The storm had arrived without warning. Adam stood at the window watching the dark clouds swirl in the sky. Rain poured down heavily, hitting the pavement with an angry hiss. The wind howled, shaking the trees, and the distant sound of thunder rumbled in the air. He didn't expect it to be this bad. The storm had caught everyone off guard. It had been a long week at work. Adam had been staying late at the office, trying to finish a major project. His boss, Evelyn, had been working just as hard. She was the kind of boss who always stayed late, always made sure everything was perfect, and always kept a certain distance. They worked together well, but there was never any personal connection. She was his boss, and that's all there ever seemed to be. But tonight, something was different. Adam had just finished making himself a cup of tea when he received an unexpected call. It was from Evelyn. She sounded worried, even though she usually kept her emotions hidden behind a professional tone. "Adam, are you still at home?" she asked. "Yeah, just finishing up here." "Why? What's going on?" Adam replied, glancing outside at the worsening storm. "The storm's worse than I thought," Evelyn said. "The power's out here at the office. My car's stuck in traffic and I can't get home. I don't want to risk driving in this weather." Adam felt a pang of concern. Evelyn, always so composed, was usually the one who kept everything under control. It was strange to hear her sounding so vulnerable. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'll be fine, but I don't know what to do. I don't want to stay here overnight. I was wondering, could I stay at your place for the night?" "Just until the storm passes?" Adam was taken aback. He didn't expect her to ask. He had never seen his boss outside of the office, let alone in a personal setting. He was used to her sharp, professional demeanor, but now the idea of her in his small apartment felt strangely intimate. "Of course it's no problem," Adam said quickly, not wanting to sound hesitant. "It's just a short walk from here, so it's safer." "Thanks, Adam," Evelyn said, and there was a softness in her voice that he rarely heard. "I'll be there in a bit." Adam quickly tidied up his apartment. It wasn't much, just a small living room with a couch, a small kitchen, and a bedroom at the back. He didn't have much of a social life, so his apartment was a bit bare. He nervously adjusted the couch cushions and wiped down the kitchen counter. It was just Evelyn, he reminded himself. Nothing to be nervous about. A short while later, there was a knock at the door. Adam opened it to find Evelyn standing in the doorway, her hair slightly damp from the rain, her coat soaked through. Come in," Adam said, stepping aside to let her in. "Thanks for letting me stay," Evelyn said quietly as she removed her coat and hung it by the door. "I didn't know where else to go." "Don't worry about it," Adam replied, a little awkwardly. "It's no trouble." Evelyn looked around the apartment, her eyes scanning the space. "It's cozy," she said with a small smile. "It's nice to see your personal side, Adam." Adam smiled nervously. "I'm not much of a decorator," Evelyn chuckled, the sound light and easy, as if the weight of her usual responsibilities had lifted just a little. She looked tired, more tired than Adam had ever seen her in the office. The walls she built around herself seemed to crack a little. "Do you want something to drink?" Adam asked, trying to break the awkwardness. "A glass of water would be great," Evelyn replied. Adam went to the kitchen and filled a glass for her, his hand slightly shaking. When he handed it to her, their fingers brushed, and for a moment, both of them froze. Neither said anything, but the brief touch seemed to linger in the air between them. "So," Adam said, trying to fill the silence, "how was the office today?" "You seemed busy." Evelyn took a sip of her water. "Always busy. But I'm getting used to it," she sighed. "I just wish things could slow down for once." Adam nodded in understanding. "I know the feeling. It's hard to find time for anything else." They both sat down on the couch. The storm outside grew louder, the rain hammering against the windows. The sound was comforting, almost soothing in a way. They didn't speak much after that, the silence between them filled with the storm's rhythm. As the hours passed, the storm showed no sign of letting up. Evelyn sat beside Adam, still and quiet. She seemed lost in thought, her eyes distant. But there was a softness in her features that Adam hadn't seen before. She was no longer the strong, commanding boss he was used to. Now she was just a woman, tired and vulnerable, seeking comfort in the calm of the storm. Finally, Adam broke the silence. You can stay as long as you need to. It's no problem. Thanks, Evelyn said softly, her voice almost a whisper. She turned to him, her eyes searching his face. I'm sorry for putting you in this position, Adam. I know it's probably a little awkward. Adam smiled. It's really no trouble. I'm glad you're safe. There was a pause, and for a moment Evelyn looked uncertain. I don't like feeling weak, she admitted. I've always had to be in control, you know. In the office, at home, everywhere. But tonight it's different. I'm not in control. Adam felt a strange sense of warmth in his chest. He had always admired Evelyn's strength. But now, seeing this side of her, it made her seem more human, more real. She was just a person, like everyone else. You don't have to be in control all the time, Adam said gently. It's okay to let go sometimes. Evelyn looked at him, her expression softening. She seemed to search his eyes, almost as if she was seeing him for the first time. For a moment, there was something in her gaze, something unspoken, something that made Adam's heart race. But before he could say anything, she quickly looked away. Thanks, Adam, she said quietly, her voice steadier now. You've been kind. Adam smiled, but it wasn't the usual smile he gave in the office. This one was softer, warmer. It's no problem, really. As the night grew deeper, the storm outside began to calm. The rain slowed, the thunder became distant, and the wind softened. The world outside seemed peaceful, but inside Adam's apartment, a tension lingered in the air. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it was new. They were no longer boss and employee. They were just two people, sharing a moment in time that neither of them had expected. Evelyn stood up after a while, stretching. I should probably get some rest. We'll both need to get up early tomorrow. Adam nodded. Yeah, of course. There's the guest room if you need it. Evelyn looked at him for a moment, then smiled faintly. I think I'll be fine here. She sat back down on the couch, and Adam followed her. The storm had passed, but the air between them remained charged, full of unsaid words and emotions they couldn't yet express. Neither of them knew what would happen next. But for now, they simply sat together, the silence between them peaceful, a strange comfort in their shared moment. Cliffhanger of Part 1. As Adam and Evelyn sat together, the quiet of the apartment wrapping around them, Evelyn leaned back, her eyes closing for a brief moment. When she opened them again, she met Adam's gaze with a softness he hadn't expected. Don't call me your boss tonight, she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Just call me Evelyn. Adam's heart skipped a beat. The world outside had calmed, but inside, everything was shifting. And the storm had passed, but the night felt heavier than ever. The soft hum of the city outside was a far cry from the chaos of the storm that had taken over the streets just hours before. Inside Adam's apartment, the atmosphere was different now, quiet, uncertain, yet filled with a strange warmth. Evelyn had closed her eyes for a moment on the couch, and Adam had turned off the lights, allowing only the soft glow of the city outside to spill into the room. Neither of them had spoken much after that moment, when Evelyn had looked at him with a softness he wasn't used to seeing. Her words still echoed in Adam's mind. Don't call me your boss tonight. She hadn't said anything else after that. Instead, they had simply sat together in silence, the space between them unspoken, yet charged with 1,000 possibilities. Adam couldn't ignore it. Something had shifted between them, something neither of them knew how to handle. It wasn't the usual boss-employee dynamic anymore. They were no longer confined to their professional roles. Tonight, they were just two people, sharing a moment they hadn't planned for. Act 1. The morning after morning came slowly. The sun hadn't fully risen, but the first light of day filtered softly through the window. Adam woke up to the sound of the city stirring, distant car horns, the murmur of people starting their day. He had somehow fallen asleep on the couch next to Evelyn, both of them leaning against the cushions, the blanket that Adam had spread over them barely covering their legs. Evelyn was still asleep, her head resting against the back of the couch, her hair slightly messy but her face calm. Adam's heart skipped a beat as he looked at her. The exhaustion from the night before seemed to have softened the usual sharpness in her features. For a moment, she looked more like the woman he'd always wondered about but never really got to know. Vulnerable, tired and human, he carefully stood up, not wanting to wake her, and moved quietly to the kitchen to make some coffee. The apartment was eerily quiet, except for the clink of the mug in his hands. Adam couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The night before had been different, intimate in a way he hadn't expected. He didn't know what to do with the lingering feeling in his chest, this pull toward Evelyn that seemed to deepen with each passing hour. As he made the coffee, he glanced over at the couch. Evelyn stirred, blinking a few times as she woke up. Her eyes met his, and for a brief second the world outside seemed to vanish. Her expression was soft, still half lost in the haze of sleep. "Morning," Adam said, breaking the silence. His voice sounded hoarse, as if he hadn't spoken in days. Evelyn stretched, slowly sitting up. "Good morning," she replied, her voice still low. She glanced around, clearly trying to remember where she was. Her gaze landed on Adam, and there was a fleeting moment of hesitation. "How are you feeling?" Adam asked, moving toward her with the coffee. Evelyn smiled faintly as she took the mug from him. "Better. The storm seems to have passed, doesn't it?" Adam nodded. "Yeah, looks like it. I think we're safe now." There was an awkward silence as they both sat there, the weight of the previous night hanging in the air. Neither knew how to address it, so instead, they both fell back into their usual roles. "Do you need anything?" Adam asked, trying to fill the silence. "I can make breakfast if you'd like." "No, I'm fine," Evelyn said, setting the mug down on the table. "I'm just thinking." Adam raised an eyebrow, sitting back down on the couch. "About the storm?" Evelyn chuckled softly. "Not exactly, more like everything else. I don't usually get a chance to think, you know? I'm always so focused on work, deadlines, meetings. Last night was a reminder that there's more to life than that." Adam's heart skipped again. There it was. The vulnerability he had sensed but never fully heard before. The way Evelyn spoke now was different, more open, less guarded. It made him feel as though they were standing on the edge of something they couldn't quite see. "Yeah, I get it," Adam said quietly. "It's easy to forget there's more to life than work. Sometimes you just need a moment to breathe." Evelyn turned to face him. Her eyes softened, and there was a moment when she didn't seem like his boss at all. She seemed more like a person, just like him, struggling with the same things. "I'm glad you offered to let me stay here," Evelyn said, her voice steady but sincere. "I wasn't sure where else to go. I didn't want to stay at the office, and I didn't want to risk driving in that storm." "It was no trouble," Adam said, his voice low. "I'm glad you're safe." They shared a quiet look, and for a moment, Adam felt his heart race again. He could feel something unspoken between them, a connection that had nothing to do with their jobs. It was a strange feeling, one that left him both nervous and excited. Act 2. Crossing Boundaries. As the day wore on, Evelyn stayed at Adam's apartment, the two of them avoiding the elephant in the room. They talked about work, about upcoming projects and the team's performance, but there was an undercurrent of tension that neither could ignore. The bond they had formed the night before was still there, lingering in the space between them. Eventually, they decided to go for a walk, to get some fresh air and clear their heads. The storm had cleared, and the sky was a soft blue. The streets were wet, but the air felt fresh, as if the storm had washed everything clean. "Do you walk like this often?" Evelyn asked as they strolled down the quiet street, their footsteps echoing on the wet pavement. "Sometimes," Adam replied. "It's a good way to think." Evelyn looked over at him. "You know, I've always admired how calm you are. At work, you always seem to have everything together. I wish I could be more like that." Adam looked at her in surprise. "Really? You seem like you've got everything figured out." Evelyn shrugged. "I wish that were true. It's just that I've spent so long hiding behind the title of boss. It's easier to pretend everything's perfect when I'm in charge. But when I'm not, I don't know who I am anymore." Adam felt a pang in his chest. He knew what she meant. He had spent years trying to find his own place in the world, always feeling like he was just an outsider looking in. But now, standing here with Evelyn, he felt a strange connection to her. She wasn't just his boss. She was someone who, despite her strength, was just as lost as he was. "You don't have to hide with me," Adam said softly. "You don't have to be perfect. I'm just me." Evelyn turned to face him, her eyes searching his face. "And who are you, Adam?" Adam paused for a moment, unsure of how to answer. "I don't know. I'm still figuring that out." Evelyn smiled, a soft, sad smile. "Maybe we're both just figuring it out then." For a moment, they stood there, the world around them fading into the background. It was like time had stopped, and all that mattered was the shared understanding between them. Neither of them knew what came next, but for the first time, they were willing to face it together. Cliffhanger of Part 2. As they continued to walk down the street, the tension between them still palpable, Evelyn stopped suddenly. She looked at Adam, her expression serious, her voice barely above a whisper. "Adam, there's something I need to tell you. Something I've been holding back for a long time." Adam felt his heart race. He could sense that this was it, the moment when everything would change. Evelyn took a deep breath, her gaze steady. "I don't know where this is going, but I can't pretend anymore. What happened last night, the way we've been talking today, it feels real, and I don't know what to do with it." Adam's breath caught in his throat. This was it. This was the moment when everything between them would change. He didn't know how to respond. But he knew one thing for sure. The line between them had been crossed. And whatever happened next, he couldn't go back. The question was, what would they choose?